Welcome to the Podkey summary of Xcode Tips and Tricks Group Lab from WWDC 2026. This batch of Xcode updates is full of the kind of changes that don't always look dramatic in a keynote, but absolutely change how your day feels. There's a lot here about reducing friction, quicker experiments in Swift files, fewer project merge conflicts, faster ways to split code up, better debugging, and a handful of quality-of-life fixes that should have existed a while ago, and now finally do. One of the nicest additions is a new playground macro that lets you drop runnable snippets right into any Swift file and see results inline, basically like a playground without opening a separate playground. That makes quick API experiments, model checks, or even little UI ideas much more immediate. You stay in the actual source file, try the thing, see what happens, and move on. It's one of those features that sounds modest until you remember how often you just want to poke at one expression and not rearrange your whole workspace to do it. Xcode also now supports workspace-specific themes, which is surprisingly useful. You can give one project a bright red theme, another a blue one, whatever works, and that visual cue helps you know where you are before your brain fully catches up. If you bounce between client work side projects and production code, that kind of context marker can save you from making the wrong edit in the wrong place. There's a very practical new shortcut for refactoring too. If you cut code, focus the file navigator, and paste, Xcode can automatically create a new file and guess the file name from the pasted type. So if you paste a struct called person, you get person.swift without the usual new file dance. That's a real-time saver when you're cleaning up a bloated file and trying to act on the thought before it disappears. One of the biggest team-facing improvements is the move toward true folder references, the blue folder project format. Instead of Xcode tracking individual file lists inside the project file, it can rely on actual folders, which means dramatically smaller .xcode pro diffs and far fewer merge conflicts. Teams that fully switch over are reporting almost no conflicts, even on large code bases, and the migration can be done gradually with a convert folder command and a pre-flight check. Anything that reduces project file drama is welcome. Nobody wants to spend an afternoon resolving a conflict caused by somebody adding one file. Schemes now expose toggles for features that are controlled by user defaults, so you can turn experimental Xcode capabilities on or off per scheme without touching code. That gives you a safer sandbox for trying under-development features without polluting your main setup. Filtering has also improved in a couple of places. The console now supports component-wise filtering, which makes it easier to isolate logs from specific subsystems instead of staring at a waterfall of unrelated messages. And jump bar menus now filter as you type, so regular menus behave more like code completion. That's just faster, especially in large projects where menus can feel like a scavenger hunt. SwiftUI previews picked up a smart improvement too. You can pass enum arguments into a preview and get a grid showing every variant side by side. So instead of manually duplicating previews for different states, you can see the full spread at once, including combinations like light and dark mode or different size classes. For visual testing, that's a big deal. It turns a chore into something you can actually keep up with. A few debugging changes stand out because they add real signal, not just more buttons. In the memory graph debugger, there's a hidden share button that opens a timeline view in instruments. That matters because a static snapshot can miss the actual shape of a memory problem. A timeline lets you spot spikes and trends over time, which is often what you need to understand, leaks, or unexpected growth. Breakpoints also get more flexible. You can right-click one and add conditions, repeat counts, and actions like logging a message or playing a sound without actually pausing execution. You can even tie them to modifiers like the Shift key being held, which is a very specific little superpower for UI debugging when you only want the breakpoint to fire in one interaction path. Xcode 27 adds a one-click delete derived data menu item, and honestly, that's the sort of thing that gets a tiny cheer from people who've been doing this long enough. It replaces the usual terminal incantations and helps when disk space is tight or a build has gone mysteriously sideways. The Xcode team's explanation is pretty candid too. Deleting derived data often clears up hidden race conditions and dependency glitches, even though the long-term goal is to fix the bugs that make that necessary in the first place. On the build side, Xcode Cloud can now run the same code base on both Xcode 26 and Xcode 27, which is useful for checking App Store compatibility against older SDK requirements without constantly flipping your local setup around. You get 25 free hours, and the build environment stays isolated, which makes the whole thing less fragile. There's also a useful reminder here about build performance. Modularizing code into packages or frameworks means a small change doesn't invalidate the whole world, so incremental builds get faster. And if you have custom script phases, declaring explicit input and output files keeps them from running every single build, which is a sneaky source of slowdown in a lot of projects. Build settings are getting easier to manage too with external .xd config files. Moving settings out there makes them version controlled, reusable, and commentable. And the help inspector now shows the exact setting name, so copying it over is much less annoying. Markle got a nice upgrade. Xcode can render Markdown directly in the editor and on a canvas preview pane, with side-by-side editing and a quick option to switch back to raw source when you need it. That makes README work, documentation, and even internal planning files feel more at home inside the editor, instead of like something you have to manage somewhere else. Source control also got some overdue love. Diffs now use the traditional red and green colors, and you can customize those if your eyes prefer something less intense. There are performance improvements for repos with huge numbers of tags too, which matters a lot more in long-lived projects than people like to admit. And a multi-select stash deletion feature is still on the future list. So apparently even Xcode knows everybody has a drawer full of old stashes. They're pretending to revisit someday. Taken together, this is a very good kind of release. Less glamorous maybe, but full of changes that save time, reduce errors, and make the tool feel less stubborn. If you spend all day in Xcode, these are the upgrades you feel in your shoulders by about 3 p.m. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.